Hi, welcome to Story Time with David Booker. Appreciate you being here. Today we're doing chapter another festival. They've got a few of them, and this one is the Farmers Festival. If you remember a few chapters back, the farmers were a little upset because everybody else, the sheep herders, had something. Everybody had something except them. So one of them went to Josh and said, "Hey, can we have something too?" Of course, all he said was, "Don't keep sheep." So he was a little upset about that. And so they've come up with something, and we're going to read about that festival now. This is probably the last festival they can fit into the calendar. The high school, I better get a drink first. Hold on one second. The high school didn't help. The high school field was chosen as a site for the farmers' competition. Even the bleachers were going to be used for the feedback climbing races. Two forklifts were waiting to bring in anything for any event. Brought two pallets of hay bales in and set them down along a chalk-marked measuring bar. Talbot and Joe had been training for weeks to demonstrate the different competitions with Jack as their guide. Talbot took the microphone and explained that the contestants were supposed to do: grab the twine, swing from the hips, and toss the bale as far as possible. Joe demonstrated and put a lot of effort into his throw, but instead of tossing it out, he tossed it up. Went up and over the crossbar of the field goal. Ladies and gentlemen, that was at least an 11-foot throw. Granted, it was up instead of out, but that was close to being a record. Joe, you want to try it again? Joe hefted the bale and this time sent it out to 24 feet, 6 inches. Joe dusted off his hands and sat in the grass to wait for the next demo. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the bar has been set by Joe Steckler at 24 feet. Line up and take your shot. Farmers and farm hands lined up and, following Joe's example, tossed bales out. For the first few, Joe's bale stood alone. The strongest had held back to allow others a chance before the heavy hitters went in. Jack from Tom's farm was waiting in this group. Luke was the first of the heavy hitters to take the field. Quiet man, but the leader when it came to the farmers' group. It was his efforts that got the Farmers Festival off the ground. He grabbed hold of the bell, swung easily, and sent the bell soaring. Kevin waited to see the marker. Luke became the first to beat Steckler's throw at, holy cow, 29 feet. Might even be a couple of inches over, but the official says 29. He paused. Who's next? Harold Butte came out next. He was a stringy man of 50 who ran his 15-acre farm alone, except when the hobos came around. Tall and with long arms, he picked up the bell, hefted it a few times, then swung and tossed it far out into the field. Talbot got onto the mic. Well, folks, I can't see anyone beating that throw. The official marks it off at 32 feet. Okay, it's Jack's turn now. Jack, do you think you got what it takes to make a town record? Jack raised a corded arm with the thumbs up. He picked up the bale, raised it high to the rear, and then swung it out well past Harold's toss. Talbot held up his hand for silence as the official raced down the field. The bale had been broken, so they took the measurement at the first point of impact. They flipped the card. Talbot squinted to see it from so far. Holy cat, 36 feet. Hell, that's the throw that's going to be on the books for a while. Give it up, folks, for our winner, Jack Lomax. Crowd cheered and stomped their feet. All right, we've seen how far a farmer can toss. Let's see how much he can carry. This is a two-person event. At each flight of stairs, the competitors will climb the stairs as fast as possible while carrying as many feed bags as possible. From what I've been told, the average farmer carries 4 bags up to the loft, so that's a base amount. One of the team will stack the bags handle up with as many as the other says they'll carry. Each bag weighs 50 pounds, so with one in each hand, that's only 100. Joe will demonstrate with 200. Joe came over and took the mic. No, your turn. Talbot sighed and went to the stairs. Taking a couple in each hand, he raced swiftly up the stairs. Okay, Sheriff, that was pretty good. Time. I'll bring them back down so they can use them for the competition. Talbot acted as if he was going to toss them right down over the heads of the crowd, who were all covering up. Instead, he picked them up again and handed them off. Jack decided to sit this one out. He saw that everyone else's limit was between 4 and 6 in each hand, and since he was able to do 8, meant he accomplished 800 in each hand on a regular basis. Luke's carry of 6 was not unusual, but his speed put him in first place. Joe announced the next event. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a cow flop pulling contest next. For this, we're going to need maybe the whole field. So let's get the officials pretty far down there. Sheriff Talbot is in uniform, so I'll demonstrate this one. Picking up a pressed cow flop, he tossed it like a frisbee, sending it sailing down the field. He didn't put a lot of effort into his throw, so it ranged about midfield. Not far, but you get the idea. While he was talking, he was busy unwrapping a goo-goo candy secreted in his pocket. With an evil gleam in his eye, he palmed it. I wonder what a cow flop tastes like. He palmed the candy and reached out and made it look as if he'd taken one. Bringing it to his mouth, he took a huge bite to the accompanying screams and yells from the crowd. What's wrong? He asked with a bewildered look of an innocent. Don't worry, folks, it's really just a candy bar. Yelled the rapper for all to see amongst peals of laughter. This was a swiftly moving competition where one person threw, the throw was measured and recorded, and the next took their place. What fascinated Talbot as he watched throw after throw, that strength really didn't matter. It was finesse that won the field. That honor went to Harold, who with long arms and a snap of the wrist sent the Patty 210 feet for the record. Gentlemen, looking forward to the next event, the wheelbarrow race. There were 14 contestants and 300 pounds of potatoes in each wheelbarrow. One person was the pusher who would navigate the obstacle course, while the other was a catcher whose job was to retrieve any potatoes that fell out and ensure they got back into the cart. The men broke into teams and took their places. Just remember that there are 60 potatoes in each cart. Those who want to can check the count, because at the end, the barrel will be counted again to ensure the winner has in time. Did I read that right? Those who want to can check the count, because at the end, the barrel will be counted again to ensure the winner in time has them all. Gentlemen, we will start the race in 5 minutes. Folks, pick your team and let them know you're there for them. The shouting shook the field. 5 minutes later, the contestants were satisfied with their count. Talbot brought out his starter's pistol. The timer set their stopwatches, and when the gun was fired, all of them were off. It looked like it was going to be a tight race, with Jack and Tom leading and Luke and Harold second. As the wheelbarrows traversed to the far end of the field, the potatoes were continually shifting, sending the barrels tilting. Jeff Marshall and Hank Parker had to stop when the wheelbarrow tipped and over, and they lost the potatoes. After they got them all, they realized they were 3 short. Panic search, and they found them near the rear wheels. Jeff hefted the spars, and they tore off, working to catch up to Jack as he and Tom had outpaced the rest. Hank was hunched over, moving the potatoes continually to keep them inside and also centered. This made their run faster, and they soon passed those in the rear, leading to a mad dash to the front. With only a few yards to go, Hank got behind Jeff and pushed him. With a few feet left, Jack and Tom were looking over their shoulders at Jeff and Hank, swiftly closing the distance. It's going to be a fight for the finish. Jack gave Tom a mighty heave and was dragged over a few cowpats that hadn't gotten quite picked up. Hank gave Jeff a push, sending him flying, and he arrived at the finish neck and neck with Jack. The officials went into council while the teams pushed the wheelbarrows off the field. The final result was too close to call, and they decided to call it a tie. Off the field, a count was being accomplished on the wheelbarrows to ensure that both teams had a full amount. Joe waited for the judge's decision, then announced the tie to an enthusiastic crowd. Tom brought out his largest cow from the wagon and staked him out in the center of the field. She was a plastic cow and waited patiently, chewing the grass and wondering why she'd been brought. That would announce a cow tipping contest at which Joe was going to demonstrate. Joe rolled up his sleeves, got down into a football stance, and tore off at the cow. Cow looked over, saw Joe heading at top speed and in her direction, and stared. Joe launched himself at the cow, who just went back to eating the grass. Of the 14, Luke and Jack were the only competitors who everyone felt had the slightest chance of winning. Luke walked up to the cow, patted her for a moment, then dug in his feet in the grass, placed his hands wide on the cow's side, and pushed. The cow didn't budge or even seem to be concerned. Luke walked back, shook Jack's hand, and sat in the cool grass. Jack knew the cow since it was one of Tom's and milked it often. He went to it and greeted it warmly as an old friend. The cow nuzzled him in return. Jack laid a single hand, on the cow's side. The cow folded to the ground and rolled on its side. Jack laid down with his head in the cow's belly and pretended to go to sleep. Jack was laughing so hard he couldn't make the announcement. Okay, Jack, I don't think we can count that one, but you sure gave everyone a laugh. Jack pulled up the stake and walked Bessie off the field. Talbot continued, Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for the final event, the greased piglet catch. He wiped his brow. Sure has been a hot day. I had a talk with the high school, and they're redoing this field, and they said if we tear it up, they don't care. So let's tear it up and cool off at the same time. Joe, will you do the honors? Joe went to a large knob and twirled it, sending water shooting from multiple hidden sprinklers. Talbot made motions as if he were taking a shower. Boy, that feels good. Hey, Joe, is the pig ready? Joe put on an apron and gathered the piglet in his arms. Slippery and frantic to escape, he was having a hard time holding it. Talbot had all the farmers and anyone else who wanted to cool off joining the circle around Joe. A few people joined in and the circle was closed. Joe released the pig and the chase was on. What had been a very nice crop lined field became a muddy mess in a short time. Heavy boots tore up the sod and kicked mud hither and yon. The piglet was more than a match for the farmers and evaded capture with ease, leaving all the participants soon covered in mud. Only one of the group was a boy of 12 who was standing waiting while surrounded by flying bodies. The pig was darting back and forth, evading capture, while the mud and water were slowly removing the grease. When everyone was exhausted, the boy felt the time was ripe to make his move. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a carrot. Squatting down, he waited. The pig was slowing down and looking around. Seeing the carrot, it squealed and came charging. As soon as he was within arm's reach, the boy grabbed the pig and, holding it tightly, fed it the carrot. Now, Talbot called the chase and checked with the officials. Nothing in the rules said anything about enticing the pig, so the young man won the contest and the piglet. Josh closed the event, reminding everyone that this was a first-time effort and improvements would be implemented for the next one. If anyone could think of other events to add on, let us know. Hope that you had a good time, and we look forward to making it much better next year. Okay, so that's it for today. The next chapter is back to Greenville, where Talbot and Michaela head back to Granville, this time taking their baby with them so they can get another view. So that's it. That's it for today. I appreciate you being here. Hope you enjoyed this chapter. We look forward to seeing you again on, I always forget these days. Today's Friday, so it'll be Tuesday when we do the next reading. So hope you enjoyed this chapter. Hope you'll be here on Tuesday for the next reading. Thanks for being here. Be good and be good to yourself. Bye.